So this week we have a very special guest. We have Stephen Job. Yes, you heard that right. Stephen Job from Footprint Digital, who I've invited to kind of a guest spot on the channel. I was struck by his passion for accessibility. He himself has autism, and I thought, why not give him a great platform to kind of introduce himself, share his passion for accessibility, and in turn educate you guys more on what makes for an accessible website, because of course he himself uses these tools on a day-to-day basis. So it's great to hear from someone who actually requires accessible websites, and again, just sharing that knowledge with you. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Let me know if you want to hear more from Steve or just on the subject of accessibility altogether. It's slightly less technical, but show him your support. Leave a like down below if you enjoyed the episode. And without further ado, here is Steve.
Hi guys, my name's Steve Job. I'm an SEO. I have been for nearly 10 years now. Today I wanted to talk to you about SEO, accessibility, and why you should give a shit. And hopefully by the end of this, you've got a few pointers and tips that you can take away and look at your websites and potentially optimize them for people with accessibility needs. So who am I and why do I actually care about SEO and accessibility? Well, as I said, I've been doing SEO for about 10 years now, and I recently found out and was recently diagnosed, I should say, with autism. So a lot of this speaks to me and my accessibility issues that I have when using websites as well. So why do I think SEO and accessibility go hand in hand? Well, one of the reasons is that Google's always said that we need to focus on the user. And I look at usability and user experience and accessibility as the same thing. Accessibility and people with accessibility issues are still users at the end of the day. And accessibility issues, if you can fix them, will make users without accessibility issues navigate your site better anyway. And from an SEO point of view, we're going to be touching on a few basics that a lot of people get wrong. So what is accessibility, and how does it relate to digital marketing? First of all, when we think of web accessibility, most people automatically assume or think of visual impairments and mobility impairments. A lot of other disabilities aren't actually taken into consideration or account, but these sorts of things do include neurodiversity, so autism, ADHD, dyspraxia, dyslexia, epilepsy, OCD, anxiety. The list goes on, and I always apologise to any that I haven't added into the list because I feel like I'm kind of missing people. There are cognitive impairments, hearing loss, hearing issues, colour blindness comes under this. But obviously these include other situational impairments as well as environmental factors. So it's things like limited or slow internet connection, screen glare, a brightly lit room, a broken arm or broken hands. They affect the way you react to and interact with the devices you use. They're accessibility issues. So why should we think about accessibility when optimizing for search engines? Because I'll be honest, if you're not physically thinking about the user when you think about SEO, then that's your first step. Always think about the user. Accessibility at the end of the day is just user experience. People with accessibility issues are just users at the end of the day. The other benefits of the fact that having an accessible website isn't just for the benefit of people with impairment issues either. It allows people to navigate the site better, find what they're looking for quicker, and just generally have a better experience on site. Do images have file names that explain what the context of the image is? Or are the image files named 168523.jpg? Have you got image tags, alt tags explaining what the image is, or do they just say company logo? Does the alt tag that you plan on using accurately explain the context of the image that you're looking at? The benefit of that is we can still use the keywords that we want. It's great for image search rankings. We just need to make sure we adequately explain what the image actually is as well. Best example of that is if the image is of a man drinking a Coke can and your keyword is Coke, don't just label the image Coke. Label it smiling man enjoying an ice cold Coke. Straight away you've explained the image, you've still used your keyword, and you'll get better search rankings out of it. How does SEO and accessibility actually all tie in together? There's quite a few things that are really, really crucial, and they all kind of tie into basic SEO foundations, as well as just basic usability and user experience in general. It all kind of starts with page titles. All SEOs will know page titles. We've spent hours optimizing them, we've spent hours tweaking them, and they're crucial for SEO. But a lot of people aren't aware that it's actually the first element that screen readers will ever see of your site. The first interaction that a visually impaired person will ever have is with your page title. So make it accurate. Does it even reflect the content you have on that page? It's, as I said again, it's just standard good practice at the end of the day, but it also helps you create that accessible experience that you're looking for. We then move on to heading structures. Again, a good header structure needs to be logical. It needs to describe what the content actually is and what will appear under the header. The clearer it is, the easier it is to understand. So far, so standard user experience. And the good thing is it's great for anyone, anyone that has a potential cognitive impairment, but it's also great for anyone using a screen reader, and it's just great for good usability and scan reading as well. A good, well-defined header structure is essential. So next we move on to images, and we briefly touched on this a little bit earlier, but image alt tags, I'm going to touch on them again. Basic web accessibility guidelines state that descriptive alt text should always be used. It's useful for anyone with a visual impairment. As I said earlier, it's useful for anyone with a slow internet speed because they can still understand the context behind the image. Good descriptive alt text also helps search engines. Key thing to remember, search engines physically can't see what an image is, but they can see the image alt text. And that helps them understand what the images actually are, which in turn helps boost your rankings. So next we move on to video. Videos are really, really great. They help you build links. People share them on social media. They're a fantastic bit of marketing. However, there was a study carried out by digiday.com, and it states that 85% of all Facebook videos are watched without sound. How do you capture an audience while still meeting those accessibility issues? Closed captions. We all know what a closed caption is. They still play on videos. People can unmute that video if they want to unmute that video. I'll be entirely honest, there's nothing physically worse than using a screen reader to try and navigate a site, only to have a video start playing over the top of what you're trying to listen to. I've tried it. I recommend everyone does it. People that use screen readers can't physically just move their mouse and look for a play button to hit stop. They have to physically listen to their screen reader, trying to spot the video tag, while also listening to a video play over the top of the thing they're trying to pay attention to. I mean, the general example I give to anyone I work with is install Chromevox on your browser, go and find any video on YouTube, play it, and then go to your favorite website and try and navigate around it. It's next to impossible. I still haven't really gotten to the point of what accessibility has to actually do with SEO. I'll be honest, if you think that, you might have missed my point. A lot of the things that I've mentioned so far are generally just good practice. That's it. How do I know if my site's accessible? We've got Google Lighthouse. When it first came out, accessibility was one of the audits that it checks. It will also provide suggestions on fixes, which is a brilliant place to start and figure out what you need to resolve. But you've got Screaming Frog, or any other crawler that exists. They can provide error codes, broken links, which is always a bad user experience, and you can use them to extract all header tags on a page, so it can give you a better idea of if your heading structure is well thought out. Are there any good examples of accessibility? Autism.org is a fantastic website, and what they've done is introduced a dimmer switch to their menu, which allows you to switch between various different color schemes. Again, one of those things that you wouldn't assume, but various different color schemes can affect people in different ways. Guidedogs.org is a fairly self-explanatory website, but I have to mention it because it's done so well. There's a beep upon image load, so you know when the site's fully loaded without being able to physically see the thing. And they've put a lot of effort into their image alt tags. It's a fantastic site to use as a case study or as an example of where to begin. But on top of that, the reason it's really important is because big businesses are starting to get behind this. Morrison's had Quiet Hour. People are starting to think of accessibility issues outside of the internet, which is another reason as to why you really shouldn't ignore it anymore. So what have we actually covered and learned today? Hopefully something. But we've tried covering SEO, accessibility, and user experience, and how they relate together, and how realistically accessibility is just SEO and user experience with a different name. I generally hope you found this useful. I hope you've taken something away from it to help either build a more accessible website or just something to kind of keep in mind that the next time you want to optimize something. If you have found this useful, or you've got any questions, or you just kind of want to reach out, feel free to reach out to me. My name's Stephen Job. You can either find me on footprintdigital.co.uk, or you can reach out to me on social media on Twitter at SEO Yeti Steve. And yeah, I'll hopefully look forward to speaking to you then.